Welcome to Activations with JJ Ascension Message. In this episode, I will be talking about what the root of some of the conflict on the planet is, as well as a recurring theme of root chakra clearing and awakening. Hello, my friends. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. If you are new to the podcast, welcome especially to you. I am so thrilled with all of the new followers, and I am extremely excited to co-create with you for this particular Ascension message. I am JJ, a multidimensional channel and starseed linguist. I also consider myself to be an Ascension guide, and it's one of my very favorite things to work with people one-on-one and in groups to help them navigate through their soul evolution as well as the Ascension energies and shifts on the planet today. So whether you come to a gathering, you've seen me in a one-on-one, or you listen to the podcast, I am holding space for you. Speaking of that, I know that there are a lot of things going on the planet today, especially with conflict. We're feeling that in a lot of different ways, both physical conflict that's going on as well as sort of more ideological conflict that's happening right now. And I know a lot of you, again, are empathic, highly sensitive, and feeling so much of that. In fact, if you listen to one of my later podcast episodes, one I did just not very long ago, I mentioned that as I record this, it is mid-April. And this month in particular of 2022 is one of shadow work, of healing, timeline healing, and parallel and past life healing. And there's a lot that's coming up for people. For that reason, it was not by chance that we are falling upon a pretty special astrological event at the end of April. I think a culminating event, in my personal opinion, and in the opinion of many others who I've read. This is our black moon solar eclipse. So it is a second new moon of the month of April. This doesn't happen very often, and that is why it's called a black moon. In addition, there is a solar eclipse occurring on that day. So the theme is processing shadow work for the month. And I have felt very strongly that in order to hold space the best that I can for you, I should open up some special sessions. So those of you who've already heard me talk about this, I'm just going to tell everybody about it one more time to remind you what I am doing. On the 29th and 30th of April, I have created special time slots for 30-minute sessions, which will be strictly focused on helping you move through and past this big shadow work that you're doing this month. Now, I know that you're doing shadow work all the time. All of us are. But I know that many of you in particular during this month have felt a pretty heavy load. And I'm really going to harness the energies, the new beginnings energies, the solar eclipse energies for this black moon solar eclipse to assist you in finishing that up for now and in really being able to help you shift out of that energy. It's been a little tough, right? It's been a little bit tough. I don't know if every single one of my listeners has experienced that personally, but if you are at all connected with the collective, you totally understand this. Not to mention, there's other stuff going on the planet that is related to just a heavy feeling. We'll talk about that in just a second. So I just want to make sure that I remind you about those special sessions. There are a limited number because I only have a certain amount of hours in the day that I can do them, but I am here for you, and I would love to connect with you through those sessions. The link is in the description to the podcast. There's one more quick thing I want to mention to you. I do have another cohort of multidimensional soul activation coming up during the month of May. This is an incredible program where we build momentum over 4 weeks. We do some group sessions and some individual sessions and assist you in unlocking parts of you that have been dormant. And this is good for those of you who are feeling like you're ready for that next stage. You're ready, you feel like you're on the cusp of something, but you're not quite sure what it was. And you are just feeling the need to wake up a little bit more. So many of you have dormant gifts, which you came to the planet with. And for whatever reason, They haven't been ready to unlock. But those of you who know will know that it is time. And if that's you and this calls to you, the link is below for you to just even explore what it's about without me going into a ton of detail. But if the phrase or the words multidimensional soul activation speak to you, then I would definitely take a look. Of course, I use lots of light language to do that. That is one of my go-to methods for helping to activate you. And it's incredible as I bring through personalized light language for each individual session. And I also give you recordings to listen to. It's just, I can't say enough about how many amazing experiences have come from me being able to do this modality with people. And I'm totally and 100% led by my higher self and by spirit on this, because I really did just start from scratch when I downloaded how to do this. And it's been just such a powerful journey for so many people who have been able to go through it. So again, the link is below. Moving straight into our topic of the first one, which has to do with the conflict. I had a really interesting conversation with somebody this week where I was discussing some of the conflict that was going on the planet. And there are so many levels and layers to and explanations, honestly, that you can look up from different channels, different spiritual people regarding why. Why? What's the explanation? You all know that I'm not really into the fear-based conspiracy theories. There's a place for that, and many of you have gone through that in your journey. And I 100% invite you to have sovereignty and to be able to know and co-create whatever you want. But for me personally, I always try to attempt to see things at all the different levels and layers. In fact, it's really fascinating because I think it was 2 episodes ago, or it was my last Ascension school, how I talked about we shift all the time. As we become multidimensional beings, we could be living on the 3rd density Earth, and then sometimes shift to the 4th density. And there's times where we're feeling like we're in the 5th density, but then we go back to the 3rd density. And if you look at how we shift like that, there are explanations at each of those levels for why things are happening on the planet. So I'm trying to take us to that 5D version of why this is happening in a very neutral, non-dualistic way. And that's what I kind of channeled for this person when I was speaking to them about a particular conflict in a part of the world. And I said, I really do feel, and I was just tapping in. I was like, I don't even know. Like, I haven't thought about this. And this wasn't actually a war. This was just more of an ideological conflict that was going on in a certain part of the world where people with different beliefs were not seeing eye to eye. It was causing a lot of divisiveness in the region. And again, it looked at face value just like a bunch of people who were brainwashed, and a bunch of people who are open-minded. And, this is how it's painted by certain people. Anyway, I said, okay, hang on though. If we're looking at it that way, that's one perspective. What if we took it to the next higher level? And interestingly enough, I was drawing the analogy that sometimes when I'm connecting with people's higher selves, because when you do a one-on-one session with me, I will literally just connect straight off the bat with your higher self to be able to bring through what's best for you. And sometimes, and I don't know why, I don't always understand, I will go to your higher self. Yes, it goes on forever, and I don't want you to get super overwhelmed with the concept of the higher and the higher and the higher, but I feel like I'm tapping into a higher self. And when I brought through this information, I felt like I was bringing through the cause of this particular issue on the planet from that higher perspective. And the interesting thing that came through was all about the energetic grid on the planet and the ley lines, and how certain things had transpired to cause those ley lines to be disconnected. So there was like an energetic disconnect on Gaia in that area of the world, which made it more susceptible to humans being in conflict. So I think a lot of times we put the blame on the humans, and obviously we have free will, and so those things do come into play. But there are certain energetic spaces that have what you might consider to be broken grids on the planet that need to be regridded or restructured or supported, that are causing some of this instability in people's thinking. Because There are lots of schools of thought about this, but if you believe that we're truly source energy at the core, and when we come to the planet, we simply have a veil that causes us to forget. A few weeks ago, I talked about the illusion of separation, which was traumatic for many of us, and that some of our behavior can lean that way in the right environment, and that's what causes things. So it's kind of this ripple effect. That being said, I had this conversation, and then the next day in our Galactic Federation gathering, which was so incredible, by the way. The next one is coming up on May 14th. I would love to have you there. The link is also in the bio. What do we do at these? Oh my goodness. We go on Zoom and we all create this amazing gridded space. This time, I actually want to share with you a little bit what we did for this, because I know so many of you, a lot of you want to make it. It's not at a good time or whatever, and you're probably curious to know what we do. This time, here's what we did in a nutshell. I started out and I didn't really know what we were going to do beforehand, but we started out and I had us grid. And I not only felt that we were gridding across physical geographic regions, because there were people there from all over the world, but then I asked every single person in the group, I said, I feel drawn to ask you to go to a specific time in the history of the planet. So not only were we gridding across geography distance, we were gridding across the fabric of time. And so I said, I think some of you are going to go to like the very beginning of Earth. Maybe some of you will go to Lemuria. And I asked them to anchor this grid that we were forming there and just literally tie it down in that time frame. And then we actually went back into and connected with some ships. But that was so fascinating to me, is that we started out gridding that way. After that, we connected with 3 different ships. I was inspired by an Instagram account I follow called Light Language Energy. The link is also below in case you want to follow her. She's amazing. She does drawings, light language drawings. And when I saw her drawing just a few days before our Galactic Federation gathering, I knew that's what we were supposed to do. I absolutely knew that's what we were supposed to do. So anyhow, I saw these 3 ships in my mind because it looked like she had drawn 3 ships. And I intuited, and I kind of just brought through and channeled, one was Arcturian, one was Pleiadian, and one was Lyran and Orion together, which was interesting. As I brought through each kind of group, because I channeled the Arcturians first, they were also dealing with the grid of the planet. What we did was we brought through these rings of green energy around Gaia, and they told us we were fortifying the grid work. We were fortifying the grid work, the Ascension grid, and that some things had happened or things weren't as stable as they wanted them to be, and so we were assisting and to be able to stabilize that. And as you know, you can feel it on the planet. There's still stuff shifting, and so that stability was helping. Then we connected with the Lyrans and Orions, and they did some activations. And one of the most fascinating things was when we connected with the Pleiadians. And I've connected with the Pleiadians so many times, you guys, but this time was different. Oh my goodness. I think it was because the powerful group we had there just gathered, and when a bigger group of people can hold energy, I can bring through way more stuff. So this is another reason to come to the gatherings, because I drop these things through, the guides and the interdimensionals bring through these codes that they can't bring through when it's just me channeling by myself. But what happened is I was trying to see, because I see things and I'll describe them to the group. And I was like, I think it's a ship, but I can't really tell. It's like glitching in and out, and it feels super high density, like it's coming, like it's trying so hard to bring this stuff through. Well, after the fact, after I had brought through just strings of codes, you guys, I could not stop bringing through strings of codes. I had to have everybody like pause because they were bringing through so many codes. Anyway, I felt like this weird ship was where these codes were coming out of. And after the fact, somebody in the group had drawn something looking like a gate during the gathering previously. And then she dropped in and said, oh my goodness, I think what you saw was like a Stargate. And I said, yes, it was like a portal. It was like a Stargate, like the one you see on that TV show. And they were dropping the codes through, but they were far away. I could tell these Pleiadians were way different density than us. And they were actually having a hard time like bringing them to me. And I was just reaching so hard to try to grasp them. And I did. And when I did, they asked each of the people in the gathering to become a conduit for the codes. And we sent the codes down into the core of Gaia where they were there to be used. Like they're still there. That's a whole other story that I'll go into later. But wow, what an incredible experience. I mean, there's even more to it, but I don't have time to share. So I just thought I would share that with you with regards to what's happening and how we're fortifying and strengthening, and then what the root cause of some of the conflict is. This is something for you energy workers to think about. Those of you who are light workers and looking to help the collective and work with the Galactic Federation, reach out and see if there are areas in the planet that are weakened or have disconnects with the ley lines, and try to find out, intuitively go there. You can astral travel, astral project, whatever it is that you want to do to help. They are always grateful for our help. Okay, the second point that I want to touch on, and then I'll wrap up, just has to do with the root chakra. I read another Instagram post. I keep getting these inspired Instagram posts coming through my feed. And she talked about the fact, and I'll share the post below. I can't remember right at this very moment. I think it was Blue Rose Oracles XX. Blue Rose Oracle XX, sorry. And she talked about how many people right now are releasing root chakra cords that they have through their root chakra that are not serving them, that are not related to abundance, and they're not related to unity consciousness, and people are shedding them. And this is why I said at the beginning of this episode, one of the themes that's coming up for a lot of people is instability in the root chakra. And what I intuited was really interesting, because I realized that it's not just like an issue with the root chakra. It's that your root chakra has been so used to and so accustomed to these technically connections that aren't serving you, like old patterns and programs that aren't serving you. And when you're releasing them, like they're cut off, you feel like a part of your body was cut off because you've been sitting with them for so long. And so you feel out of whack. Okay, I know some of you are just feeling really weird in your root chakra, and you feel like, oh my gosh, am I having issues with abundance? Like, what's going on? I thought I did all this work. I thought I've done all this energetic work with my root chakra. Don't worry. It has to do with this release that's going on. Surrender. That's what I'm going to tell you right now. Surrender. I'm actually putting out a beautiful Archangel Sandalphon meditation, guided meditation to support your root chakra this week. So please be on the lookout for that. But I want to tell you to please be patient with all the ways that you're processing. This has to do with what I was talking about just a second ago, about the multidimensional way we react to things. Hold space for yourself to react in a 3D way, a 4D way, a 5D way. Process everything in all the layers, all the levels, multidimensionally, because that's the kind of being you are. That is what we are awakening to. We are waking up to the fact that we are multidimensional beings. It might feel sometimes like you have split personalities, like you're on a roller coaster, like you're having all kinds of weird ascension symptoms. But again, this is you waking up. This is you remembering who you are. My dear friends, I hope that this has been some kind of a support for you through this time. I hope it's given you some clarity. I would love to hear your thoughts. If you're listening on YouTube, please feel free to drop your comments below. I read them. I appreciate them. I value your co-creation. As always, I am sending you so much love and honoring the divine being that you are.